Okay, yay, all right, here we are. It's fall quarter, and welcome back to school. Stats 21. I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces too. But anyway, welcome to the class. Okay, so this is Python and Other Technologies for Data Science is the name of the course. And yeah, this is the kind of the Python class. There's another Python class offered by UCLA, Pick 16A. Has anyone already taken Pick 16A? Okay, probably don't take this class. There's like just way too much overlap, I think, because this is intended to be like an intro Python course, and so is Pick 16A. It's just the prereqs for Pick 16A is like different, and it's offered by the math department controls that, and Stats 21 is controlled by the stats department. So I'm trying to kind of convince the stats department to accept Pick 16A as a substitute for this class and things like that. But just right off the bat, maybe there's a little bit too much overlap. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome. So this is my must and please. Or you have to read the syllabus. So if you go on homework 0, read the syllabus, and well, okay, it's not loading, but I know the syllabus has kind of grown, and it's now, how many pages is it? 9 pages long. Okay. When I first started teaching my syllabus, it was like 1 or 2 pages, and then it felt like every quarter something silly would happen, and I would say, I don't want that to happen again, and I would add like a paragraph or a sentence in the syllabus, and here we are years later. It's 9 pages long. I've kind of but I've tried to detail out a lot of stuff. There's a table of contents for the syllabus as far as finding information. So anyway, please make sure you read the syllabus. Later today, I will send you links to Campus Wire, and you'll have to create an account if you don't already have one. If you've taken any class with me before, you probably already have a Campus Wire account, and you'll get added. And so make sure you check Campus Wire, and it is part of your grade. So you have that. Also, the lectures are recorded, and so if you don't attend live, make sure you watch the lecture. Okay, and also, lastly, please come to office hours instead of sending me an email. And I always feel a little bit strange saying this, but I'm not great at responding to email. It takes me a long time to kind of respond to email. Even like text messages, it takes me a while to respond and things like that. Not that I'm going to give you my phone number or anything, but I'm just I'm that one person who just kind of doesn't respond as far as text and things. And so, but office hours, I'm happy to chat, and it's easier for me to kind of talk and listen rather than write. So come to office hours, and I like to use email more as like a paper trail. So if there's something we discuss in office hours and I say, okay, sure, you can have an extension, or sure, we can reschedule, whatever for another time, I can write an email to kind of confirm that so you have a record that this is indeed what we said in office hours. But that's that. So please come to office hours. This is currently what I have for my office hour schedule, and I might make some tweaks or changes. So basically Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'll have office hours from 11:30 to 12:30. And I put PM, but this is 11:30 a.m. Okay, I'm not going to start at night. All right, so 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. I'll make sure that this is correct on Canvas and whatnot. And I started at 11:30 there in case if you have class from 11 to noon, Hopefully you can come afternoon. If you have class from noon to 1, you can come before then or something. And if for whatever reason you also have class from 11 to 1 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, let me know. Maybe I'll set up another time in the week. Also, Saturday mornings, I'll have office hours as well. Okay, so my hope is that this will at least provide some time for you to come talk to me. Okay, we have CampusWire, and I want you guys to use that. This is the grade breakdown. You'll read the syllabus, so all of this is kind of detailed in there. I will send out invitations to data camp, so pay attention to your inboxes for data camp invitations, and I'll kind of so you'll receive several invitations. You'll receive an invitation to CampusWire, invitation to data camp, invitation to GradeScope, and if you've taken courses with me, you may already have accounts with each of these things, or you might have to create 3 new accounts and stuff on top of all of these other accounts that you have. And I know there's so many different things, right? Some classes use Discord and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, each of these kind of different places offer different services that kind of fulfill a different need that we have. And so this is kind of what I've got planned, and grading, I always used kind of a straight scale. As far as attendance goes, well, thank you for coming to class today. And you know what? I like to take a picture. I want to take a picture on the first day of class where the classroom is full. And here we go, smile. Okay, there you go. And I will look on this during 7th week when and the classroom might not look like it does today, okay? On exam day it's full, and anyway, okay. So as far as the lectures go, if you miss class, I'm not going to be angry, just disappointed. But watch the video, okay? And then to kind of make sure you watch the video, I do lecture viewing quizzes. And so a lot of you, I think, have taken my courses before, and so you're familiar. But if you're not familiar, then on the website, you'll see for week 0 Friday, it says there's a lecture viewing quiz, okay? And let me switch to student view. And basically, you'll click Take the Quiz, and there are 3 questions here. And the questions have no context, no, basically nothing there. And I will give you the answers during the lecture, right? You're not going to find the answers in your notes. You're not going to find the answers anywhere else. You have to kind of either attend lecture or watch the video and pay attention. And so, for example, the first view quiz question today is, the answer is the letter B. B as in bear. So, jot this down somewhere in your notes so that you remember when you take the quiz, you'll put in the letter B for the first view quiz answer. Okay, and it's a quiz, so treat it as such. Don't you don't share the answers to a quiz, any other kind of quiz. And even though this is like a weird type of quiz, please treat it as a quiz, and don't share answers to the quiz, with other students. Okay, it's easy to get the answers to the quiz, right? You just have to watch the lecture, which you're supposed to be doing to do this. Okay, quizzes are open only until the next lecture begins. So our next lecture is Monday morning, and so this quiz is open until Monday morning. After which point it closes, and you lose the opportunity to answer. You lose the opportunity to answer the quizzes. So make sure as soon as you kind of watch the lecture or attend lecture that you kind of take the quiz and answer it. Okay, and this accounts for what did I write? 15% of your grade. 15% of your grade. So it's intended to be an easy way to get points. just for attending lecture or watching lecture, which you should be doing anyway. And I think it's important. Well, I like, of course I'm biased, but I think my hope is attending lecture is valuable to you. Okay, but anyway, the first view quiz answer is the letter B, and I will provide the answers to questions 2 and 3 later on in today's lecture. Okay, I will send out invitations to Data Camp, and you will get access to Data Camp's premium content for the rest of the quarter. I think in total 6 months, and you can go through the material there. Okay, and I'll assign basically just a chapter or two or a few chapters from each of these courses. And the intention is to kind of make it manageable. All right. I will. We'll also have regular old homework assignments, and I will. In this class we'll use Jupyter, and there's lots of different options for how to do data science, but I've elected to use Jupyter. So I'll post homework as Jupyter notebooks, and you'll do your exercises, and you'll render them as PDFs, and you'll submit them to Gradescope, and we'll see that. All right, this is the plan that I have laid out for our 10 weeks. That we might need to do some tweaking and modifying. This first, I don't have week 0 in here, but next week we'll start with Git and GitHub. How many of you already have a GitHub account? Okay, great. And and if you've never used GitHub, how many of you use Git in order to interact with GitHub? Okay, some of you, right? Okay, so a lot of you have kind of a GitHub, but maybe you're like uploading things through the browser. But I'm going to emphasize the use of Git, and I'm going to basically post all of my lecture content onto Git, and you will kind of pull my content from GitHub using Git, and so there's a little bit of a learning curve there, but so I'm not going to be posting my lectures onto Canvas, but they will go on the GitHub page, onto GitHub, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay. Oh, and then let me also just talk a little bit, I guess, about I think the textbook is Think Python 2nd edition. You can purchase the book if you want, but you can also just download a PDF copy of it from the website here. So you have that. If you want a physical copy, you can pay for it. But other than that, you can just download it there. And then we'll also be using the Python Data Science Handbook. And this, again, you can read within your browser. If you want to purchase it, you can purchase a paper copy as well. But this you can read in your browser, and you just have to select that you are at UCLA, and then the familiar UCLA sign-on page will appear. Okay, and you should be able to access both of our textbooks that way. Okay, and I will post homework 1 shortly, and that will appear. Okay, maybe next week. All right, let's talk a little bit about academic integrity and plagiarism and whatnot. I give the same spiel in all of my classes. So if you've heard this for the 5th time or whatever, I apologize, but I'm going to give it anyway. All right. So as far as a lot of the assignments, even the exercises from, I'm going to assign exercises from the textbook. I think the solution manual for the textbook is available online if you look for it. Okay. If the goal of homework, or if the goal is to get a task done, if you're working a job and they say, hey, you know what, we need to figure this thing out and we need to analyze this data and whatnot. Yes, in those cases, sure, you can go on the internet, you can do a search, you can see how people have approached this problem and look up your answer. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing something like that in terms of trying to get a task done. But as far as this class goes, the goal is not to get these tasks done. Okay, when I give you an assignment or an exercise from the homework and it says, write a function that does this thing, it's not that I actually need this function to be performing. All right, the point of doing these exercises is that by you thinking through this process and thinking through how this function should be written and thinking of the solution, that's going to improve you as a coder and improve your skills. Okay, and the comparison I like to make is going to the gym to lift weights or something like that, right? When you lift weights, the goal is not that the weights get lifted, okay? It's not that we need laborers to pick up these metal plates off of the ground, right? The point of lifting weights or doing these exercises is that by doing them, you will gain strength, okay? And if you don't, if your workout doesn't result in, you breaking a sweat or, a little bit of tiredness or soreness or something, you might not have worked out hard enough, okay? And similarly, if you decide to go through life without ever challenging your brain, doing anything where you have to think a little bit with your brain, then your brain is not going to try to kind of create additional connections, neurons and stuff to try to make your brain more effective and stronger. And so, my goal is that in these homework assignments, it's going to present the appropriate amount of challenge where you feel challenged, but also you can pull this off. It's difficult to write the perfect assignment that meets everybody's needs and challenges them at the at the right level, but that's kind of that's the hope. Okay. When you go online and you search for solutions, or you look up the solutions and you kind of just copy them, it's like going into the gym and asking somebody else to lift the weights for you. Okay. And you say, I can't, this is too heavy, so excuse me, can you lift these weights for me? And then they lift the weights for you and you go, okay, great. We had a great workout. I'm going to go home. Okay. Again, if the goal was that the weights get lifted, sure, that would work, but that's not the point, right? The point of these exercises is for you to work through them, and that process is beneficial to you. So, copying and pasting someone else's code, you're losing out on that, okay? And sometimes students plagiarize, sometimes students copy code, and I think I understand why this happens, and I think it's because students have confused what the goals of the course are. They've confused and decided or think that the point of this exercise or whatever is to kind of get a good grade and get a good grade in the class. And if you mix that goal up and you think getting the good grade is more important than learning, then plagiarizing kind of makes sense. But that's not the goal, right? You enrolled in university, I believe, so that you learn something and you become better trained and better equipped. And of course, we do want that degree at the end of the day, but the training is the important part, right? You want to learn things, and that's the goal. And admittedly, there is a conflict because I do assign grades, and grades kind of play a role in here and that. But my hope is you can kind of evaluate your performance in a class not on just the grade that you get at the end of the day, but how much you have learned in the class. Okay. So, anytime I assign homework, I expect you to kind of just work hard, and that you're not going to seek out solutions or things like that. And, if you attempt something and you're not able to get it to work to 100% by the deadline, submit what you have. And if it's not working 100%, you're not going to get 100% on the assignment. But I hope you will see that not as like a personal failure or something, but maybe an indication of just, okay, you know what, this is an area where I can kind of try to practice more and give myself more exercises to kind of improve and figure this part out. Okay. I wrote a few examples of the collaboration policy or whatnot, but basically, when it comes to things on Campus Wire, and if you're stuck on an assignment or stuck on a problem and you're not quite sure how to approach it, you can ask for help, and to your classmates when you write responses, there's a lot of things you can do as far as explaining how you approach the problem without necessarily writing lines of code in your answer, okay? So you can say, all right, this is how I approached it, this is how I thought about it, I created this kind of loop, I used this particular function, but you don't actually have to write out the lines of code, okay? And that's kind of the general rule there. So please respect that. As far as other code though, so we're going to see lots of code examples on slides and things like that. Feel free to discuss any of those lines of code. Okay, if it's coming from lecture material and you have questions about that, feel free to discuss that. This at the end of the day, there's a lot of coding in this class, and that's fine. It's just when it comes to homework problems, please kind of respect the limits that I've put on how to grant help to one another. Okay, so I've titled this section "Grades in Life," which is a little bit of a lofty thing, and I want to talk and say, number one, your grades do not define you, right? You guys are here at UCLA, and I think they, just released like admission statistics on, the kind of the latest entering class, and it seems like it's getting harder and harder to get into UCLA, and that's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it does reflect that the fact that you are here means that when you were in high school, when you were in community college, you were probably, one of the top performing students, if not the top performing student, and you got good grades throughout your academic career through here. And so it makes sense to feel like grades are very important, because certainly your high grades played a role in you getting here in the first place. But that said, again, your grades do not define you. And I get it. It feels good to get good grades. It doesn't feel good to get a bad grade. You take an exam that you studied for and you do poorly on it. That doesn't feel good. I get that, okay? I guess I left out the slide that says story time, but I do like to share kind of a personal story, and that is, when I was in high school, I worked hard to get good grades, and in my senior year, I got into my dream school at the time, which was Caltech, and it felt good to receive admission there, and my parents were proud, and it felt good. And so I enrolled that fall, and that fall quarter. So Caltech's also on the quarter system. That quarter, I got my first C ever in life, and that was a surprise. And then the following quarter, in winter quarter, I got my first D ever, and then in spring quarter, the trend continued, and actually a lot of things fell apart, and I failed multiple classes my spring quarter, and then I was put on academic probation, and I was given a warning, like, if you don't bring your grades up, you're going to get kicked out of school. And it was distressing, and I was depressed, and I didn't know what to do. That summer I wasn't, the idea of returning to school to have to, with this pressure to perform, and I felt like I don't even know if I'm capable of pulling my grades up so I don't get kicked out. That was daunting and scary. But it was also, very sad for me, the idea of like quitting and dropping out of school. I felt like, why did I work so hard to get into this school only to like drop out? I didn't know what to do. And I'm very grateful. My parents were very supportive, especially my father. And he said, it's not worth it. This dream of you going to Caltech and all of that, the toll that it's taking on you, it's not worth it. And so I ended up transferring out of Caltech. I went to transferred to another school. I ended up in Michigan, of all places. But I think that change of scenery was important to me, and that painful experience. Well, the problem is I had tied so much of my own identity to my grades. Throughout high school, I wasn't exactly a star athlete or very popular or anything like that. But I had taken comfort in kind of my grades. It was kind of just like, okay, well, you know what? I'm putting all of my time into academics, and so I'm getting good grades, and that felt good. And so I had tied so much of my identity to my grades, and so in college, when my grades were poor and when I was failing, I felt like I was a failure. I felt like because I had failed academically, that I personally was a failure as a person. And it took that painful experience in order to kind of separate my identity from my grades. And, and separate my own identity apart from my academic achievements, but just achievements in general. I don't view myself tied to my professional or academic or other kind of achievements, and now my identity and worth, value as a person doesn't come from that. I personally found it, in my faith and also my relationships with others. And and I don't wish this kind of painful experience upon you, but I try to share this so that I don't want you to be kind of in this trap or mindset where you view yourself through your own achievements, because there might be a time where things don't necessarily go the way you want. And so anyway, all to say, your grades don't define you, and I want to kind of give you that, and I want to give you kind of permission and allow yourself to have the freedom to separate yourself from your achievements. Okay. Let me give you your second view quiz answer. The second answer today is the letter D. D as in dog. D as in dog is your second answer for today. I put this slide here. I want to talk a little bit about work-life balance. And this is something that I think is relevant not just in your college career, but also throughout the rest of your life. And I don't know, this might be, more, in my opinion, it could be more important than, all the lessons I can give you on Python. As much as I love Python and I think it's worthwhile studying, I think it's important for us to, have a healthy relationship or perspective on, how things kind of pan out. And so I don't know how to split up our time, but I kind of said, we can put our energies into kind of three broad categories. One being work, relationships, and self. Okay, and so work will include, your school and your academics and stuff, but also, any kind of job or internship or professional thing or other professional obligations, clubs and stuff like that could fall into work. Okay, relationships include things like your family and your friends and a romantic partner if you have one, or just any other social obligations. Again, clubs could fit into that as well. And then also yourself, right? Care for your physical health, including, eating well and sleeping and exercising, care of your kind of your mental health and your spiritual health. And the bottom line is we only have 24 hours in a day, and it's just not possible to give 100% of our energy to every single one of these categories. We have to make decisions and choices about where our time and our energies are going to go. And I believe that work-life balance is achieved by making choices, conscious decisions about what is important to you and dedicating your time and energies accordingly, right? And in general, the more time you put into something, the more you're going to get out of that something, okay? Sometimes there's like something going wrong where you're putting a bunch of time in and you're not getting stuff out, and that should be like an indicator that this thing is not working out well. But in general, the more time you put into, a relationship, the more you're going to get out of it, right? And I think you can find satisfaction in life by just accepting the natural consequences of things not flourishing as much when you don't put as much time into that thing. So when you say, well, I don't have the time or energy left over to put into this thing, and I'm okay with this thing, dwindling or withering, I think you can find satisfaction. You can say, well, I'm putting time and energy into this, and these are the things that are important to me. These things are less important to me, and I'm going to invest less time there. Okay, I put in a couple silly examples here, or I don't know if they're silly, but just, one thing I remember was, sometimes, you're in a group of friends, and, you get along with your group of friends, and then maybe you or someone in your friend group gets involved with a romantic partner. And now, so if you're involved in this romantic partner, now you're investing a lot of time and energy into your romantic partner, and you have less time and energy with your kind of original group of friends, okay? And so the natural thing that's going to happen is you get closer to your romantic partner, and you get a little bit farther away or emotionally more distant from your original group of friends. And there might come a time where your friends go out and they didn't invite you to an outing or something, and it can feel like hurtful. And when something like that happens, but it's not necessarily that they are like angry that you are jealous of your new romantic partner or anything, but that's just kind of the natural consequence of what happens when you spend less time with people, right? And as people, you get to choose about what's important to you. And if you can accept the natural consequences of what happens when you invest less time into something, I think you can go through life without feeling a ton of bitterness or jealousy about things that change or as your relationships change and evolve over time, right? Similarly, when you start working, you're going to have this choice of like, how much time do I want to invest working, okay? And depending on what the rest of your life looks like, you might say, you know what, I'm willing to spend a ton of time at work and put in even more than what's being asked of me. And in a proper situation, you would be rewarded for that. Some company cultures don't necessarily reward that, and that would be kind of an indication that, okay, well, you shouldn't invest any more than you have to. But from a company's perspective, if you were in a position of authority or in a managerial role, and you have kind of two candidates. One candidate does everything asked of them, but then as soon as the clock ends, they go home to the rest of their life. You're not angry about that. But then there's someone else who does everything asked of them, and then they also go above and beyond and spend additional time, doing things that benefit the company. From the company's perspective, who should be rewarded with a promotion? Probably the one that's investing more time at the company, right? And it's not that the person who's choosing to have a life outside of work is being punished, but there's just kind of a natural thing that people who invest more or something are going to get rewarded a little bit more. And whichever person you are or you decide to be, okay, I want you to be able to accept just kind of the natural consequences of what happens, right? So if you are someone who invests all of your time and energy working for a particular company because you kind of want to climb up the ladder, that's great. But don't be surprised or don't be angry if your personal relationships with others, if you grow a little bit more distant from other people, right? And you might have a romantic partner that's not tolerant of that kind of company dedication, right? And I saw that when I worked in the corporate world, I did see the effects of that. My own manager was very dedicated to the company, and she was rewarded accordingly, kind of moving up the ranks there. But it did take a toll on her personal life because she stayed very late in the office, and so it had consequences in her personal life. And on the other hand, not that I had a very active social life, but I wasn't as willing to give as much time to the company, and so I was not looked at for any kind of promotions or anything like that. And at first I felt maybe I was a little bit offended, but I realized it just kind of makes sense as far as how much time you're spending and what gets. And so these are just the natural consequences. And so you get to make a choice, and just I want you to be ready to accept the natural consequences of what you choose, right? I put in self-care is important. So don't neglect taking care of your own physical and mental health. If you neglect self-care, you're going to be operating at less than 100% efficiency. So things like getting enough sleep is important, because without sleep, your mental and your physical health are going to suffer. I put in a couple examples here that you can read through if you want. But yeah, make sure you take care of yourself. And so, sometimes you'll hear your professors say things like, your mental health is important. And it might sound like just some empty platitudes, but I sincerely mean it, okay? And what I'm saying here is I want you to choose to invest your time into things like exercise and sleep and relaxing and having fun that will boost your mental and physical health. Sometimes that means maybe not completing your homework to 100%, okay? And I want you to be okay with that, right? So I assign homework, but it doesn't mean that you have to, you get graded on your homework. But if you're at a place where you say, I don't have the bandwidth to do my homework and study for this and do all of these other things, okay? I want you to feel okay with saying, for me, and at this moment in time, getting more sleep is more important than finishing my homework. The natural consequence of not finishing your homework is that you're going to get less than 100%, okay? Now, and I want you to be okay with that, right? Now, you can come talk to me, and usually I'm fairly generous and understanding of different circumstances, and I can grant you an extension. But it also doesn't have to be like if you choose not to do your homework, then the natural consequences, you're going to lose points on that assignment, okay? But I want you to be okay with that, and give yourself permission to maybe not do your homework some days, okay? And that's that, okay? Other aspects is I want to just say, just be mindful of how your time is being spent. There are different entertainment activities, and entertainment and having fun is very important. I am all for having fun and doing entertainment, and I enjoy playing video games. I bought a PlayStation over summer break, and so I've been playing like Spider-Man and things like that, and I had a lot of fun. Okay, and so I'm all for that, okay? But these entertaining activities, they should feel like they're a break from work, and what they should do is they should recharge you, and they should give you mental energy so you can return to your work in a good mood, ready to take on more stuff, right? Some activities can have the opposite effect, right? Some activities, like there's certain, social media apps and things like that, where they are designed not to build you up as a person, but just to be addictive. So you keep kind of, they have, and you can thank data science for this. These designers have figured out, okay, if we do this, people come back, right? People keep watching. They stay on the app longer if we do these things, right? So you have kind of just the next video starts immediately after this video. So it's like, oh, I have to make a conscious decision to stop, rather than kind of being passive and just allowing all of these videos to kind of keep going. Or, I can just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and I never have to stop and click next, right? And it's kind of the same principles that were used to design a casino so that people lose track of time and, stay gambling and whatnot. A lot of similar ideas are being applied in these apps or these games or whatever, so that you kind of just stay hooked, and before you know it, a few hours, you just say, it's 10 o'clock, I'm just going to take a look at this, and then next thing you know, it's 2 a.m, and you go, oh my gosh, how did this happen? Be mindful of these types of things, okay? If that activity like energizes you and you go, all right, I'm ready to tackle the world, great. But if it's kind of just like, oh, I feel kind of crappy about myself for doing this, then maybe you should say, all right, maybe this thing is not a good thing to have in my life, right? So be mindful and selective about your entertainment activities. Again, I'm all for having fun, but also, be mindful. And then sometimes we can use entertainment as a way to like run away from our responsibilities. And sometimes like there's a project or there's something that's looming over your head and it's hanging over you, and you say, well, you know what, I deserve this moment. But at a certain point, it becomes unsustainable of having a day to try to treat yourself. So don't use it to run away from your activities either. So anyway, thanks for listening to my spiel. Let me talk a little bit about some of the tools that we will be using in our course. Let me give you your last view quiz answer for today. Today's last view quiz answer is the letter E. E as in elephant. E as in elephant is your last view quiz answer. I'm going to I advocate for the use of Anaconda as our means for working with Python, okay? So Python is a general purpose language, and I will admit that the Python world is a little bit messy. There's a whole bunch of different versions of Python. There's a whole bunch of different packages that require other packages, and there's kind of like this crazy cascade. And this package depends on this package, and it requires this version. And if you update this version of the package, then these other things, these other dependencies break, and all kinds of stuff, okay? And so Conda is a tool, and there's a few different tools out there, but Conda is a tool that can be used for managing packages and environments. And Anaconda is kind of this collection of commonly used Python libraries, along with this Conda tool that is kind of designed around data science. So it includes, so when you install Anaconda, it's going to install, NumPy and Pandas and these other very important libraries and modules for data science, SciPy and Matplotlib and scikit-learn, along with Jupyter Notebook and Jupyter Lab. Okay, and so you can go to Anaconda. Oh, I guess it's no longer called Individual Edition. It's called Anaconda Distribution. and you go there, and it will detect your system. And so I'm on a Windows machine, and so you can click download. If you're on Mac, you can download the Mac things, the whatever. So you're gonna install that. So that's Conda, and then we will be a lot of the things, especially when we work with Git and work with Jupyter and whatnot. You're going to be working from the command line. So if you're on Mac, you're going to open up Terminal, and probably the quickest way is you can just hit Command Space, start typing in Terminal. Command Space will bring up like your Quick Finder or whatever. You can start typing in Terminal. And probably as soon as you type in TERM, the first hit will be Terminal, and you can just hit Enter, and then it'll open up a Terminal window. Okay, or you can also, other things, launch pad or whatever. And I suggest, once you open up Terminal, just right-clicking that and say like keep in the dock, so you can just open up a Terminal window whenever you want. Okay, on Windows, after you've installed Anaconda, there you'll get Anaconda prompt. I prefer the Anaconda PowerShell prompt, which includes a little bit kind of more of these PowerShell tools. And if you're on Windows, you can type in Anaconda. Well, here it's like autocomplete, but here it says, the best match is this and whatnot, and that's after you install it. And I have it pinned to my start menu here. Okay, and then from here we'll launch things like Jupyter, or you can also ask for help on any kind of things in here. So one thing is you have your home directory, so you can do cd tilde, and this will take you to your home directory. And so I think if I switch to cd, will change directories, and then but if you type in cd tilde, it'll take you always kind of back to wherever your home directory is. So it might be like users, your name, or on my machine it's on C users miles or whatever. You can also ask, what is wherever you are. Okay, you can ask for your present working directory, and here it prints out your path. And again, if you're on the on macOS, these commands should work with you, okay, as well. And I think I'm going to assign some assignments where you work with the shell. So directories inside, we use this directory, this hierarchy system to kind of organize your files. And so, for example, you might create from your home directory, you might create a folder called classes, and within your folder you might create stats21. And I imagine a lot of you have already, well, some of you just have everything thrown in your documents or your downloads folder. But I imagine some of you also have several folders set up, and maybe you have them set up in a hierarchy, and this is like from your first year and this is your second year, or maybe you have it organized just by class name or something. But anyway, you're gonna have something in there, right? So I recommend creating a folder for this class, and then and within that folder, you'll probably want a couple folders, one maybe for your homework, and then within your homework folder, you can have homework 1 and homework 2 and homework 3. And then maybe also in the class folder, you can have, I will show you how to set up Git and whatnot, but we'll create a folder where you can be pulling all of your lecture slides and whatnot, okay? As far as navigating through the directories, so here, if I'm currently in the documents folder. Let me see if I can, how do I increase the font size? Okay, if I want to navigate back up, I can do ... and this goes to directory in the higher up in the hierarchy. I think I have a OneDrive folder. I have a teaching folder. I think I have a Stats 21 folder. And so if I want to go, back to say to another folder, I can do /102A, right? And this will take me back up a folder and then enter into the 102A folder, things like that. Okay, so there are ways to kind of navigate through this using the command line. All right. Anyway, we're kind of out of time. I already gave you the last few quiz answers, so you can look through the last kind of slides on your own, and we'll introduce Git and Jupyter. So have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday.